Hey everybody, News Now Wyoming here, bringing you another episode about malicious prosecution. This will be the second deep dive. I guess not really too deep in this one, but video over what all the different circuit courts around the U.S. have decided for malicious prosecution. I am certain everybody here knows what we are looking at here, but just in case you do not know, this is the list of all the Court of Appeals and where they cover. So if you live in Oregon, you are covered by the 9th Circuit. Here in Wyoming, I'm covered by the 10th Circuit. Texas, Louisiana is 5th Circuit, etc., etc. I'm going to remove my camera for a second here so you can see where do you fall into. Let me know, what circuit do you fall into? Do you follow Court of Appeals in your circuit, or do you just wait for Supreme Court rulings? Now, the big thing about circuit court rulings here is, let's say here in Wyoming, I've got a district court judge, and he rules that something is illegal. That only applies here in Wyoming. And it could also be non-binding, which means that other courts in Wyoming, federal courts in Wyoming, may not have to follow it. We do see some district courts really reaching beyond their limits and issuing nationwide injunctions, which is well outside of what they are allowed to do, but they do it because who's going to stop them? So here in Wyoming, I've got federal judges, and they will make a ruling, and that really only should affect here in Wyoming. It also may not be binding, which means other courts have to follow it. Then you appeal from your District Court of Wyoming into your 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. So if you are within one of these states here in the 10th Circuit, anything that the Court of Appeals rules on, if they decide it is binding matter, then you got to listen to it. The courts below it have to listen to it. And so some of our most recent cases, last year, a woman in Colorado sued to be able to take off her shirt with no bra on in public, and then that was ruled by the Court of Appeals by the 10th Circuit that yep, that is okay. So anywhere within the 10th Circuit, anyone, male or female, can go around shirtless without fear of prosecution. This is not legal advice. I do not advise it. Wait, I just realized my camera is still off here. So I do not advise doing it. Even if you are within the 10th Circuit, certain places, because there could be time, manner, place type of restrictions on it, right? You're at your kid's football team and you decide to take your shirt off. All right, and this is at a high school football team game on school grounds. May not be appropriate to take off your shirt. I don't know. I'm not here to give you advice. But there could be time, manner restrictions on that they didn't rule on. But that is one of the things that the 10th Circuit ruled, think about a year and a half ago. Maybe even before that, way before COVID. So, wow, time goes fast. So that is something that the Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit has ruled on. However, other circuits have ruled differently on taking off your shirt in public, or indecency acts, or stuff like that. So again, know your laws, know what the case law is. And so now the Wyoming statute on indecent exposure for your chest is no longer valid and could not be prosecuted. So if they try, then you would have to make an argument and request that it get dismissed due to this 10th Circuit. Now, after the 10th Circuit says, yes, this is okay, and then let's say the 8th Circuit, possibly the 5th Circuit would also rule that it's not okay. Honestly, I did not expect that ruling to come out of the 10th, but whatever. 9th Circuit is so far gone that it would rule whatever makes you feel better. So Texas here, I would imagine, would rule otherwise. So now we've got let's pretend that happens, or did, I don't know. But let's pretend that 10th Circuit and 5th Circuit now disagree. And then somebody from Texas says, okay, well, our circuit courts are now in disagreement. That is what typically when the Supreme Court will rule to come out and decide on a matter. When you've got 12 different districts here, including the D.C. Court of Appeals. When you've got 12 different circuits and there are 12 different decisions, then it's definitely time for the Supreme Court to act. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here with the malicious prosecution. Sorry, you guys that know all that stuff at the intro. Maybe somebody will be nice and put a timestamp to remove so you can ignore the basics of civics. And now we're going to talk about what the extra districts decide, how they have decided. Remember, Manuel was a Supreme Court case that happened sometime in the 2000s. I just read it and I can't remember. But it expanded the rights of being able to sue under malicious prosecution under the 4th Amendment instead of just the 14th Amendment. We just did a review of it. We looked at it. But there we go. And so all of these decisions that we're about to cover have come out after Manuel. That is an important case for malicious prosecution. And really big kickers to come away from it is the Supreme Court did not define what does it mean to come out in the defendant's favor. So that is all contentious across the board. All these circuit courts have decided differently. Well, not all, but overly broad they have. Alright, so the First Circuit in Hernandez Cuevas versus Taylor. It admits in this its own ruling that it has been split and each case has been different, and what they require they haven't solidified yet. Even this ruling, if you read it, I really wish I had time to do a review of each of the case laws I found, because I probably read 50 decisions between all the different circuit courts, and some were really interesting, but honestly I don't want to turn this into a 50 video series, so because malicious prosecution is not that common yet. But now it states that only requires a 4th Amendment violation. It does not require proof of malice. Okay, that's what its last ruling states in Hernandez Cuevas versus Taylor. Second court must prove a 4th Amendment violation and state the law elements of malicious prosecution. So it's actual subjective malice. So they have to prove that the person intended malice. Remember, this all came about in my eyes when we looked at the case of the man getting a ticket for flipping off an officer. Is that actual malice? He pissed off the cop and the cop gave him an illegal ticket. That, in my mind, is actual malice. But again, that's the 10th Circuit. Here we're talking about the 2nd. Third Circuit must prove a 4th Amendment violation and state law elements of malicious prosecution, and it's again actual subjective malice. 4th Circuit has ruled that they only need to prove a 4th Amendment violation, and same for the 5th and 6th Circuit. So it would be a lot easier to pull off a malicious prosecution case in the 4th, 5th, or 6th. 7th Circuit hasn't been reviewed since Manuel. So again, since that Supreme Court case, nobody's actually brought in the 7th Circuit any actual cases, but it says that it should only require a 4th Amendment violation. They haven't proven that that's what they believe, but that's what they state. The 8th Circuit prosecution lacks probable. These are the elements. Some of the major elements. Prosecution lacked probable cause, okay, and then requires showing of actual malice. And it further defines actual malice as any improper motive. Must prove a 4th Amendment violation and state law elements of malicious prosecution. and actual subjective malice. And then 10th Circuit, the one that, again, we reviewed, requires Fourth Amendment violation, and then actual malice needs to be proven. And then what else should be in there? And really, some is about they actually have to come out favorably, and 10th Circuit is very loose or very strict on what it means to be favorable outcome. Some of these other courts have actually been very they are very loose on what that actually means, and some of the others have been very tight. This is what it means, and nothing outside of this can fall into that. 11th Circuit must prove a Fourth Amendment violation and state law elements of malicious prosecution and actual subjective malice once again. So you need to prove that malice part. In the D.C. Circuit, I found this case interesting. Pitt versus D.C. Lack of probable cause is required, and then a special injury malice. Being arrested is not a special injury according to the D.C. Circuit. But as you guys can see, though, the basic elements that Manuel has set out, they are following, but the exact minutia of the decision, the Supreme Court has not actually ruled on. So in our next video, we are going to be discussing the case that is upcoming, and this might actually take 2 or 3 videos to do it justice, but a case that is going to be decided in November of 2021 that answers that exact question is, what does it mean to fall under the provision for favorable outcome? That's the basic question that is going to be before the Supreme Court, because every circuit court has ruled differently, and they haven't ruled consistently, even within their own circuits, and it's just been a mess for years. So hopefully the Supreme Court will resolve that question. The ruling will probably come out in 2022 at some point, because it'll be heard in November of 21. So there we go, you guys. What do you think about this basic overall view? What is malicious prosecution? What do you think it should be? When do you think it should come in? Do you think it should be rarely applied, or do you think it should be more broadly applied? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Have a great day.